Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the December 14th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Yo, it's been a while. It's been a minute. I think the last time I was on here, I think it was November 9th. It was the aftermath of the election. I had some good folk that joined me. Shout out to them. Man, I'm trying to even remember the names. It's been so long. Minister Jazz, Mike, just the slew of people. Charles Corprew. I definitely appreciate everybody that tuned in for that episode. I thought I was going to be back that next day, and then you know what happens. Life happens, man, and I'm in school and I'm teaching and just trying to live this American dream, whatever that looks like, and it got it, brother. Like it got me, doing 15-page papers, just exhausted, man. I think this is the most tired I've been in a very long time. I was cruising through the pandemic, you know what I'm saying? But when we started getting multiple things placed in front of you, you got to do what? You got to adapt. And so one of the things that I couldn't do was something that I enjoy. And I always make sure I let people know to do exactly what it is that you enjoy, even in the midst of difficult times. Because why? Because that'll sustain you. But I didn't take my own advice. So here we are, though, a month later. So for those of you, it's your first time tuning in to Rhetorically Speaking, this is just a platform for me to talk my ish, right? I've been doing better on not cursing. Once you grade all the students' papers and you get all the threatening emails out the way, why you give me a 60? Somebody said, why you give me a 95? Why didn't I get 100? Right? So once you get all that out your system, then now I could just chill. I ain't got to curse. I ain't got to be frustrated. You know what I'm saying? So, but now, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, shout out to Kali who's tuned in. Shout out to, let me get it. I didn't even do my normal introduction. Shout out to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Shout out to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. And props to the stragglers who are watching on IG. Make sure you go over to YouTube and check it out. So like I said, this is a platform for me to talk my ish, opportunity for me to have conversation to challenge your thought process, your perspective. I want you to be out there thinking critically, because now we're definitely living in a time where nobody's thinking critically. I don't want to say nobody, but the idea of critical thought has gone by the wayside, and people think that the bare minimum is acceptable because that's what's being accepted. And so I'm just here to spark thoughtful dialogue, man, as I get my ish off. So, but before I start, I feel like I want to play this, right? Where's that? Right here. No, that's the. See, I ain't even got the right Umar up. Let me
Donations.
get my Umar in. Right?
Donations.
Donations, as always. We
Donations.
Donations that qualify.
Donations.
LLC. Make sure you put the cash
Donations.
in front of it.
Gifts.
Red Lobster.
Gifts.
I don't even know if Red Lobster's closed.
Gifts.
Probably doing takeout.
More gifts. More gifts.
And so it shouldn't take long. I should hit my stride at some point, in the midst of this. I'm all nervous, right? I'm all nervous because I haven't done this in a minute. But tonight we're going to have this conversation about the COVID vaccine. We know COVID's been here and it's been taking a lot of folk out. I think the count reached somewhere upwards of 30,000, I believe, at last count I saw. And we know hundreds of thousands more have been sick, and probably millions have been sick, but they haven't gotten tested because they either didn't have any symptoms, or at whatever stage they got sick, testing wasn't necessarily readily available. But I wanted to have this conversation on the COVID vaccine and black folk fear of the vaccine, because the vaccine has arrived. The vaccine is here. Unfortunately, they treating the vaccine like a fresh pair of Jordan Jubilees on Sneakers app. If you're not familiar with the sneaker app, so Jordan Jubilees, they're just a different pair of Jordans, right? The sneaker app, you got to go on there, you got to get there by 10 a.m. or you might not get a pair. Or a more of a app comparison would be Finish Line, where they give you a ticket and you press the button and it either says you win or dang, you got to try again. So as we speak now, the vaccine is only being given to select folk. Even y'all mans came out and said, listen, we don't want the people in the White House to take the vaccine first. We want to make sure we get it out to people. I firmly believe that's a crock of baloney, a crock of bull jive. I think he's saying it so the American public can look at him and say, "Oh, he cares, right? He's doing something right and putting the people first." But they probably all got it already. That's just my personal opinion. And so we know that the vast majority of the public will not get the vaccine until when? Probably a good 4 to 6 months from now. And so what happens in the meantime? In the meantime, folk die. Just keep it real. In the meantime, folk get sick with COVID. Hopefully recover. We know, and it's the video that I'm going to show you a little bit later, what we think when we think we're recovered, we haven't necessarily recovered. Matter of fact, we're going to get to it now. Right? We're going to get to it now. I'm going to show this video. And for those of you who are watching on IG, head on over to YouTube so you can actually see this video of what I'm about to play. Listen, it's sensitive. I will say that it's a sensitive video. I don't viewer discretion advised. I didn't necessarily want to watch it, but I think this goes into the fear of COVID that black folk have, right? Especially when we talk about the vaccine. Well, it talks about how COVID affects us disproportionately somewhat, but it also speaks to why this idea, this fear of getting the vaccine, although legitimate, is concerning and problematic for us as a community. So here's the video.
This afternoon, Florida star basketball player Keontae Johnson collapsed early in the game against Florida State. The Gators were coming out of a timeout and the cameras cut away from the court. And broadcasters on the ESPNU game said that Johnson had collapsed. He was taken to the locker room. Latest reports have Johnson in critical.
So I take no pleasure in showing that, but I'm gonna show it one more time because there's so much happening in this video that we aren't even thinking about, we aren't even necessarily cognizant of, that I'm going to talk about after showing it.
This afternoon, Florida star basketball player Keontae Johnson collapsed early in the game against Florida State. The Gators were coming out of a timeout and the cameras cut away from the court. And broadcasters on the ESPNU game said that Johnson had collapsed. He was taken to the locker room. Latest reports have Johnson in critical.
So that was Florida Gator basketball player Keontae Johnson, who collapsed during a game on Saturday. He fell, as you can see, he hit his head, he was unconscious. Subsequently, he was taken to the hospital where his current status, he's still alive, thankfully. Thankfully, he's still alive. He's in critical but stable condition. Keontae Johnson tested positive for COVID-19 in the summertime. Like many college players have tested positive for COVID-19 because they have to get tested in order to play. And we see so many switching of games and canceling of games because players are testing positive. Just like most of America, Keontae had mild symptoms, maybe had no symptoms. Thought he was fine after a few weeks. Why? Because we tell America, listen, just quarantine it was 14 days. Now they're saying it's 7 days and you'll be fine. You'll be okay. They don't tell you about myocarditis, which is a heart ailment caused by viruses, which COVID-19 causes. And it's been found in 15% of the athletes that they tested in college. Think about it. he wasn't tested for myocarditis. So can that number be higher? Yes. Now, is myocarditis serious? For sure, right? But it can clear up on its own with no physical activity for roughly 3 to 6 months. But once Keontae Johnson got better, he probably went back and started playing again, started strength training, started practicing. Unfortunately, if you do that with myocarditis, you can not only have these issues, right, heart-related issues, but it can cause sudden death. It's similar to cardiomyopathy, which killed Hank Gathers, which killed Danny Rumpf, which killed Reggie Lewis, which killed a host of other athletes. And so again, we talk about this idea of taking COVID serious. I put a question on my IG asking, are you going to take the vaccine? And I had a sister that replied and said, no, I'm not taking the vaccine. My body will naturally fight it off. Word. I can't tell you what to do. What I can do, though, is replay this video of Keontae Johnson.
Early in the game against Florida State, the Gators were
Right.
coming out of a timeout and the cameras cut away from the court.
This unfortunate video of Keontae Johnson.
Collapsed. He was taken to the locker room.
You can see the secondary trauma that's impacting so many who've watched this video, the traumatic experience that it was, not only for Keontae's family, but for everybody that was in attendance, for everybody that was at that game, watching him collapse and potentially die. Right? Again, I understand the fears. I understand the fears. I don't get a flu shot. But I don't know how I'll respond if the flu shot was given when the flu started running through folk. And they had potentially had a vaccine. But I've had a lot of information, a lot of data since that says, okay, you know what? I'm going to recover. There's so much unknown about COVID. I saw a statistic that said, I believe it was 30% of the people who tested positive for COVID, within 90 days, they had a diagnosable mental health condition. We're talking about depression. We're talking about anxiety. We're talking about PTSD. We're talking about brain fog symptoms akin to dementia. We're talking about diminished lung capacity. Right? And so when we're having this conversation about vaccinations, and again, I understand why black folk won't get vaccines. I understand the medical mistrust. I mean, you got black folk, notoriously black women going into the hospital saying, listen, I'm experiencing this pain, and they tell you walk it off. Matter of fact, here was some aspirin. We know that at one point it was a thing within the medical profession where black folk, where was the idea that black folk had a higher pain tolerance than their white counterparts. We recognize what Tuskegee was, how unethical it was. The reason why you have informed consent, you have to sign off on everything. For 40 years, they let black men go untreated for syphilis, when all it took was a shot of penicillin. because they wanted to understand what it did to the body. So I get it. I get the mistrust of the medical profession. But at what cost? I can't tell you. I can't tell you what to do. Am I going to take it? Hell yeah. Because what's the alternative? Right? I don't know anybody directly that died from COVID. I know multiple people that were on ventilators for weeks. I have friends and acquaintances whose loved ones has died from COVID. Still doesn't make sense to me why Karl Anthony Towns is playing basketball. Karl Anthony Towns of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Somebody said he has 35 million reasons to play basketball. He has 7 reasons not to play basketball, including his mother, who died from COVID. 7 people in his family dying from COVID. I mean, look no further. Some of the other responses that I received was, hell no. Right? I talked about, nope, I'm not, because my immune system can naturally fight it off. I have someone who says they're in healthcare, so they have to take it, but they will want it anyway. Again, I get these sentiments. Someone else says I'm shook. No shame in my fear, though, just the lack of information. Who's it incumbent upon to get this information? And that was one of my questions that I've posed for people. They said, no, I don't trust them. Well, what more do you need? And Kylie talked about this idea of groupthink. That's one of the reasons. Is there a segment of the population who won't get the vaccine solely because they see others saying they won't get it? Yep. Is there people are there people who lack the awareness of how to go about finding information related to the clinical trials, let alone understand it? Indeed. And so I saw so many comments, and I'm gonna play this video that I saw earlier, because again, today was the first day that the vaccine was available for folk, and people were up in arms, and you'll see why.
Okay, so we're going to the next rotor. I'm ready. Let's do this.
Ah, the good old black doctor or black nurse. Excuse me if I don't know her role, giving the black patient a COVID shot, a COVID vaccination shot. Oh man, if you can't tell me that wasn't strategic, but I understand it. I'm accepting of it. Because so many people are, especially within the black community, are against this idea of vaccinations. They call Dr. Fauci a racist because he said, brothers and sisters, one of the people who helped develop the vaccine is a black woman. I guess right now representation doesn't matter, right? So often we say representation matters. Now you're saying representation don't matter. Is it Uchiwali or is it one Mike? Again, this is your decision, right? This is your decision. But I am noticing the people that saying they not getting vaccines, not all, but some. Y'all out here living y'all mask-free life. posting on the gram, not caring about what nobody else saying, let alone me. I don't like y'all pictures. I don't like pictures anyway. But when I see y'all out in these streets, especially y'all Florida and Texas folk, I mess around and block y'all. Because y'all weird anyway. You know how I feel about those two states. And so, yeah, I block you. Because I don't want to see you not give a damn about humanity. Right? Even if you don't care about it for yourself, caring about it for your fellow human being. Your countrymate. No more scotch. Ryan asked me, did I get the vaccine? I have not gotten the vaccine, but I will get the vaccine. As long as it's free. Now, if they start trying to charge me up, then I got to start saving up for it. I might have to do again. I got to put the Umar Cash App back up so y'all can help me get the vaccine. In the meantime, I'm rocking my mask. I'm social distancing. I don't think nobody washing their hands. If we keep it real, nobody washing y'all hands like y'all was 6 months ago. Right? Nobody keeping up with the hand washing. Ideally, they would just shut the whole world down. But we know y'all need your bread. We know y'all need your money. So that's not going to happen. They closed the gyms down here in Philadelphia. I mean, was I upset? Yeah, but I was scared as hell anyway. And you know how I feel about people who post and they caught COVID. If I caught COVID, because you know the incubation period take a little while. If I caught COVID, you're not going to see me posting about, listen, I caught COVID. Don't give me your prayers. I don't need your prayers. This was a result of me not making the best choices. Now, if I got it from going to the Acme or to the Dollar General, then you could give me some prayers. And that's real. Because again, we talk about healthy decision making, man. You can't be out here in these streets all willy-nilly, still going out to dinner, still linking up with folk you ain't seen in a while, flicking it up. Not even smart enough or considerate enough to hide it. Not post a picture. I don't want to sit here and say you deserve it. However, I'm not going to say you don't deserve it. Just based on your lifestyle. I mean, think about it. Think about anything else that we do where we don't make healthy choices. There's consequences to it. So I'm not going to be like Saw. If you don't know Saw, go check the Shade Room. Oh, listen, I know you was at a funeral, Saw. You cooked the food. I can't offer you the well wishes. Because there's some old folk that's been just chilling in their crib the whole time. And they dumbass kid or grandkid done went out and was living their best life and gave it back to them. That's who I could give my prayers if I was a praying person. That's who my thoughts go to them. Otherwise, that's on you. And I know it's harsh. But we got to call a spade, especially when it comes to something that's literally it's life, death, and the quality of life. We still don't know the long-term effects. I just read something that said erectile dysfunction is now being seen as a consequence of having COVID. I mean, and my man Ryan Reed in here, I know he got the little blue pill on deck, so I'm not too concerned about that. You know what I mean? But again, however, we're learning so much about this daily. And so if taking a vaccine is something that I can do to potentially improve or maintain my quality of life, then of course I'm going to do it. It's a no-brainer for me. Let me see. We ain't got that many comments, and I'm just... Let me see what y'all talking about. Yeah, Kylie says we should look to the journals for our information and not groupthink. Again, some people don't even know what a journal is. Right? Some people don't even know what a journal is, and that's why it's incumbent upon us to have this real conversation with folk. I understand this. What's the concept? What's the alternative? Because from what I hear, catching COVID and having them symptoms, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. And so again, what are we talking about here? Do you think it's a special batch that exists that they say, all right, this for the Negroes. This for the Negroes only. So if a Negro come in, give him the shot. Or why? Because it wasn't tested on Negroes. You know what? I'm not taking it because black folk weren't a part of the process. They was damn near willing to pay you to be a part of the process. But you didn't want to be a part of the process. So again, we continue to move the goalposts. We continue to move the goalpost as to reasoning why. And that's why I say, people, just say you're scared. If you're scared, just say you're scared, because I can respect that. I don't care what it say in the Bible or the Quran about fear. I don't care what your family-friendly therapist and doctor or your friends say about fear. Fear is real. Right? Fear is real. And it's a real fear because, again, I talked about the factors that go into it. But if you're telling me you don't trust the science, and I made the comparison or I talked about you don't trust the science, but you struggle to put together an IKEA table. I don't necessarily know if you understand the science. No shade, because the IKEA table is difficult to put together. So, listen, I say, do your due diligence, whatever that looks like for you. If you're not gonna get the vaccine, may the odds forever be in your favor. As long as you're doing what you gotta do to keep me and mine safe, cool. And to the rest of y'all, man, I'll see y'all at the crossroads with the needle. Because I'm gonna get it right up in here. And that's just what it is. I wanted to get back to the Keontae Johnson conversation just because it was so unfortunate. I think, even though this isn't the first case, right? This isn't the first case of an athlete having severe acts. One of a kind, hold on, before I get to that, one of a kind says it's the duality of being black in America. I trust science, but not the government. I hear you. I completely understand that. Can you separate the science from the person when it's the person conducting the science? But then if you're getting mad when Dr. Fauci says, listen, I got a black woman here who's a part of this process, then is it that black woman who talked about COVID during the summer, who said it was the gods and it was the you remember her from Nigeria by way of Ghana, by way of Zambia. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it is the duality of being black in America. But at some point, you got to make a decision. Right? You got to get out your feelings. You can't be afraid to be wrong, in my opinion. Because if you have this fear, it's nothing that's going to be able to be done to have you change your mind. These aren't one of the types of situations. These aren't the types of situations where people just go change their mind and say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna get a vaccine. Again, she says, how do they explain away the longevity needed for clinical trials? You're asking the wrong person. But you're not watching this video on YouTube of Keontae Johnson, or go look at my page and watch him fall and hit his head because he had COVID-19 during the summer And as a result, he had myocarditis, which caused him to fall unconscious and potentially die. Talk about the longevity needed for clinical trials. At this stage of the game, when I see that, that's enough for me. When I see the football player from Temple who played for the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's had to be hospitalized multiple times because of having COVID-19, and he's recovered from it. Yeah, for me personally, I don't need to hear about the explaining away the longevity of the clinical trial, because I'm not necessarily interested in that. I do recognize that there are some side effects, and no, it's not the side effects of the Bell's palsy in that photo that was being passed around, because we know that those 4 individuals that was in that picture, this was taken some years ago, and it was to show facial paralysis amongst Bell's palsy victims. But yes, 4 people did develop some Bell's palsy-esque symptoms from the vaccine. Individuals who had severe allergies. But they all cleared up within a few days, the longest being 23 days. But again, if we do our due diligence and not just resting on what we see on social media, men lie, women lie, social media damn sure lies. But again, we talk about this, explaining away the longevity. There's nothing that there, if you're looking at it from that perspective, there's nothing that's going to be done for you to feel comfortable. You won't feel comfortable for the multi-year wait that it typically takes. She says, I'm not willing to get the vaccine and not know long-term effects. Again, we don't know long-term effects of actual COVID-19. We don't know long-term effects of the vaccine. I mean, this goes back to some a philosophical discussion, right? About a belief in God, right? I ain't gonna give it to you. Again, that's something that you have to deal with. I recognize that I may be wrong, or I may be right. It may be able to avoid it altogether, as opposed to somebody who doesn't necessarily get it and may have some long-term health effects as a result. Kyle says, ask that person, what is the normal length of a clinical trial? I bet they don't know. That was a sit. Hey, listen, I'm not even interested in that. That's not, that's not my wheelhouse, right? It's about, where do you put your trust, right? Where do you put your trust? We've never seen anything like this. I'm sure when they came up with the polio vaccine, it was somebody that says, listen, despite, because ultimately you never know. When we have this conversation about long-term effects, we never know. You don't know. She says clinical trials, especially on humans, take years. Recognize that, right? Recognize that. However, doesn't it take a lifetime for you to truly understand the long-term effects of any type of medication, any type of vaccine? I know there was and the name escapes me. It was a medication. I believe it was for Was it for depression? Some type of psychotropic medication that came out in the 80s, and it wasn't learned until, I want to say, decades later, about what the effects were. Again, you can do all the clinical trials on humans that you want. Again, if that makes you feel safer. Right? And I'm sure they've done trials, or they have done trials on folk, because I was willing to sign up, but it wasn't even a waiting list. And so you never know, and that's again, this is what we go back to. We never know what the effects are going to be. And so again, I see that video, I watch that video, I hear the stories, I hear the science that continues to come out related to COVID-19. It's not worth it. And I encourage you to go check out some of the stories, right? The New York Times has it where she talks about one lady, she's a lawyer doing some nonprofit work. She had COVID-19. She thought she was over it. She tried to go back and she had brain fog. I believe she said she was trying to brush the dog with her toothbrush or something like that. And then she was having these lapses where she had no idea what it is that she was supposed to be doing. Directly related to COVID. Again, if it means me getting shot up to avoid it, potentially not knowing the side effects, then hey, I'm with it. You know, we talk about not knowing the effects of things, and there's so many other things that we partake in life, and we don't know necessarily the long-term effects. And I just find it, so interesting, right? When we talk about, those who use marijuana, right? We know we don't necessarily know the long-term effects of marijuana usage. Right? Because the research isn't that old. Again, it takes a lifetime often to truly understand the impact of a vaccine, of a drug, of a medication. She says, the human body is complex, so nothing is absolute ever. We should respect the personal choice each of us make for ourselves and our loved ones, hopefully keeping the larger community safe. Ideally, but however, once you post it to social media that you're not taking a vaccine at this stage of the game, is you make yourself fair game. Or if you post that you're taking the vaccine, you make yourself fair game. No matter whatever you post on social media, you're making yourself fair game. And so, listen, you will be judged. Hence, I see y'all, I see y'all out here living y'all best lives. Who birthday party was it that I was watching? The Lil Wayne daughter, Lil Ray Janae. I see them in Atlanta just turning up. Meanwhile, I see COVID twerking, doing the body yaddy yaddy dance throughout the joint. And the sad part is somebody that's just chilling in the crib is going to die because of their ignorance, because of their lack of care for humanity. So, yo, what's happening, Sil? Now I ain't even get to the. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're a parent and you letting your child play sports, shame on you. Point blank. And I could go on, but that's just my thoughts. I understand why professional sports teams are playing. They're grown men, grown women. Do I think they should be playing? Hell no. But it's billions at stake. Folk they got a lifestyle they got to live, and it's not even as the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Some of them taking care of many folk. Some folk just trying to maintain. She says we all benefit from civil discourse. There's no such thing as civil discourse. It's 2020, babe. It's 2020. That's not happening out here. Not in these spaces. We're long gone, long past this idea of civil discourse, right? But when we talk about the Keontae Johnsons of the world, the college students who are risking their lives to make these universities millions and billions of dollars, it's unfortunate. But even an argument could be made there that they're adults. Those of you letting your high schooler, your middle schooler play sports, again, shame on you. Because this is affecting everybody, right? You may be setting your child up to be the next Keontae Johnson. Yo, Yasmin, what up? And so listen, man, I felt good about this show. I felt good about it. I wanted to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. I'm going to try to get somebody on to have this conversation with me about this opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal that said Jill Biden shouldn't be calling herself doctor. So I'm going to reach out to my network and see who I can bring on to have this conversation, because I don't necessarily disagree with the guy. Is he a jackass? For sure. We'll get in that tomorrow. Listen, man, I appreciate you all. Till next time.